What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. Want to kick off today's show with a mock trade idea for you guys. This one involving the Bulls and the Minnesota Timberwolves. In this scenario, the Bulls would send a guy I've been talking about a ton in recent episodes. They would send guard Kobe White to Minnesota. In return, the Bulls would receive two guards back, guard Dante DiVincenzo and guard Rob Dillingham there. If Giddey's prolonged negotiations with the Bulls are any indication of what could come in the future, then perhaps Kobe White's negotiations with Chicago could be going the same way. And this is kind of why I threw this in to start today's show. You can't help but think, if you're a Bulls fan, how are things going to go next offseason when Kobe White is set to hit free agency if they can't even get a deal done with Josh Giddey? And where does this leave Kobe White, and where do things stand heading into his final year under contract with Chicago? The former UNC guard is entering the final season of his 3-year, $36 million contract with the Bulls. He will more than likely hit unrestricted free agency in 2026 to test his market. I don't blame him for doing that at all. It's a smart move by any player. Kind of see what your value is and what kind of value teams see in you financially. So I think that's definitely expected. On the other side of this trade, as for Dante DiVincenzo and Rob Dillingham, DiVincenzo has 2 years remaining on his deal at around $12.2 million per season, and Dillingham is under contract in his rookie deal still for 3 more years. So Chicago, over the years has proven to be cheap in the past, and this might be the solution they're looking for. So that is something that makes some sense there. I could see the Bulls pulling something like this. I know it would make a lot of Bulls fans upset. I know there are a lot of you as well who want to see Kobe White moved. So we'll see what happens. I wanted to open today's show with that. Kind of switching gears to a guy I've talked about a ton during the segments of this show as well, and that being Pat Williams. Where is he going to fit in to this Bulls roster this next season? What are the lineups going to look like with him? After starting 175 games and 213 appearances, he only started 36 of 63 games last season, losing playing time to rookie Matas Buzelis down the stretch there. Matas is going to be the focal point of this team, and I keep saying that he's going to be the guy, and they're really nurturing him. Even in this summer league, you could see it. They're building it into his game to be the main guy in this lineup. And 4 or 5 starters are seemingly set in place when you look at this Bulls team. Josh Giddey and Kobe White as the backcourt. You got Matas as the 4 and Vooch at center if he's not moved. And at this point, like I've talked about in recent episodes, I do not expect or anticipate Vooch being moved before this season or even before the February deadline here, moving into next season. So that last starter, and that's where it gets interesting, could be between Pat Williams, Isaac Okoro, and Ayo Dosunmu. Those are 3 guys, all of which could deserve to start. A lot of you would say Pat Williams doesn't deserve to be a starter, but I have to find it hard to believe that the Bulls would not enter Isaac Okoro into that starting lineup after flipping Lonzo Ball for him. That was a big move, the biggest move to date for the Bulls this offseason, even though it wasn't as big as some of the other ones we've seen around the league. So you have to figure Isaac Okoro is going to win that between the 3 of them. Chicago fans have probably seen enough out of Williams at this point, or feel that way at least, but if he impresses in training camp in the preseason, he could work his way back in. I could see that being a possibility, especially given the fact that the Bulls have locked in so much capital into this player. He'll need to show an improved off-the-bounce game, though, as well as more consistency on defense. Those are 2 areas in which he has to anticipate being better in order to get himself back into even the conversation of being in the starting lineup. So just wanted to dip into Pat Williams a little bit more today. Kind of fast forwarding, and I've kind of previewed 2026 free agency before in this show as a moment for the Bulls where they're really looking to kind of make big moves. I think next summer, as opposed to this summer, is one free agency where the Bulls are going to be truly active. They have the money to do so. And I wanted to throw at you guys one name that makes a ton of sense if you're Chicago in terms of looking to add a guy who could be a very impactful piece for this team and that's all defensive first team Oklahoma City Thunder shooting guard Lou Dort. He's the 8th best possible free agent next summer, according to many rankings here. Despite his reputation on one specific end of the hardwood, Dort would offer a new team some major offensive value too. Year after year, Lou Dort proves to be one of the best one of the NBA's best role players in the league. I just think he's a special player. He showed that in his growth with the Oklahoma City Thunder, marching to that NBA championship just this past season here. So, fresh off his first all-defensive team honor, and he even finished 4th in overall Defensive Player of the Year voting. This is a guy who is a very special talent, and who knows how things are going to shake for Oklahoma City. I'll get into that in a second. But on top of all that, he's been a high-volume three-point shooter. He just shot a career-high 41.2% on 5.8 attempts a night from long range there. He would have a massive market next summer, but would OKC really let him go? That's the question here. The 26-year-old has an $18.2 million club option for 26-27 that's looking more appealing by the day, and it seems likely the Thunder will pick it up. But the team's roster is about to be significantly more expensive by then, and this is where it leaves the question, what could they do? The NBA is often, monstered up by these tough decisions that teams have to make in terms of who they're going to keep around and who they have to let go. In the rare event that Sam Presti does let Dort walk because of financial hurdles, the Bulls should absolutely go after him, I believe. And I think Dort would help you, they would help you continue to build on an identity and give you one of the best wing defenders in the league. That's what he provides. I think Lou Dort would be a very optimal add for Chicago. It would be a move that the Bulls would nail, in my opinion. I think he would be a player that fits in Chicago's scheme and what they're trying to do at his age in a huge way there. So let me know what you guys think about Lou Dort. And I know this is a far way out, but just something to look ahead to. He would be an exciting add to this Bulls organization moving forward. And just kind of wrapping things up today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Bulls overview and where they stand. Obviously, I told you yesterday's episode, the Bulls were in Miami celebrating Pat Williams' birthday. They were starting or getting ready to embark on offseason workouts in Miami. As a team, a lot of guys were there. Obviously, I know some of you commented in the last video, Josh Giddey is not currently under contract with the Bulls, so no, he cannot work out with them, but it doesn't mean that he could, be there in support of his teammates, showing a little bit of want to be around the guys. And I know that's definitely goes against the tactics when it comes to kind of pushing for your side of a new deal. So it makes a ton of sense why he's not there. But looking at Josh Giddey, I wholeheartedly expect a deal to get done. I know I predicted it by the end of August. We only have a couple of days here until that happens. But I want to, kind of look ahead here in terms of what his future is going to look like. I think it's going to be very, very apparent that he's going to be a Chicago Bull. You look at guys on the roster as well. I think Nikola Vucevic is very likely to be moved by this next year's trade deadline. I widely expect that. Makes a ton of sense for him and for where this organization is. Unless the Bulls are atop the Eastern Conference by the time February rolls around, I don't expect that. But we'll see. The Bulls are very unpredictable. Overall, there's a lot of moving parts in this team. Obviously, I dove into more of Kobe White here, starting today's show, and then Pat Williams. We'll see what happens with him. There is still a lot of rumor being thrown around out there in regard to Eastern Conference teams being interested in maybe making a deal for Pat Williams. Now, that would be shedding a lot of money. We'll see what happens there. But overall, it's a lot of things you want to keep an eye on as a Bulls fan as we move into the preseason here. We're about a month away from the NBA preseason kicking off for the Bulls. Exciting times if you're a basketball fan. So, again, I want to thank you guys for joining me on today's episode of Bulls Latest, and we will catch you guys next time.